Imagine waking up to an inbox that's already sorted, all of your leads responded to automatically, as well as being able to categorize all of your emails, store any attachments for maybe invoices in Google Drive automatically, as well as have the option to refine that email in Slack as well. That's what we're going to run through today with this agent. And to jump into it, we're going to show you a quick demo around how this works. So we can come down and do test workflow. What we'll see is we're able to get the email straight away. We're going to be able to go through and check the status that it is. We're going to categorize it into maybe an urgent email, general response email, or customer service. And we're going to be able to have a sales email that comes back. We'll get notified in Slack. And if I come across to the email, we'll open it up. And as we can see here, if I just refresh this, we've now got an automatic response that's gone back to that customer, prompting them to book an appointment nice and easy, nice and quickly. And that's what we're going to be running through today so that you can get this set up all automatically. If you want to get access to all of the resources that we run through today, plus the additional simplified version that we've got here, all you need to do is come across to the community, come into Classroom, come down to the AI agents. You'll get access to all of our resources from day one. You'll be able to download the blueprint, come into a new environment, come up to the 3 dots, import from file, choose the advanced mode, so versus the simplified one, and it will load up for you all automatically. And there we go. That's how quick and easy it is to do. But as mentioned, we're going to run through how to build it together today. So let's jump straight in. So the first thing we're going to do is need a Gmail trigger. So we'll do Gmail. We'll come through and then we're going to come down to the bottom and we're going to do on message received. Now this is going to be listening in the background to see if we have any messages. We'll do fetched test event. We're then going to come back through. We're going to come across to our Gmail. We'll just send ourselves an email. We'll come back across. Now what we should be able to do is find that specific email that's just come through. So we'll just wait for this to capture it. There we go. And it captured it nice and easy. So as we can see here, we've got the information. We're going to pin it there just so we can run through and do it. Now the first part is perhaps you've already got some emails that you already get quite often or you want to be moved straight away. So to do that, we're going to come back and across. We're going to do an if statement, and then we're going to put across. So maybe we've got an email. What we'll be able to do is come down and say anything from Alex. We'll be able to say equal to our email address here. And then if we come back, we'll just make sure we got rid of any spaces. And then we can see there we've got true. So now, for example, we could come up here, we could do Gmail, and then we will be able to say that anything we get from here, we will be able to add a label to a message, which maybe if we've got, for example, here, we could pull that across. And then we could auto categorize it. So maybe we've got anything that's coming from here would be spam. So we could do spam, and there we go. We would automatically mark it as spam, and you'd be able to do that nice and easy. So what we can do is get rid of this, because what we're going to say is that we're going to come through and we're going to go straight into the email categorization. So to do that, we're going to come in here. We'll do basic LLM chain. We're going to change this to define below. We're going to use the snippet. We're going to add a prompt in here. So what we need to do is change this to expression, pop this out, and then we're going to paste our prompt in there. Again, you get access to all of this in the resource, or you can walk through it. What we're basically saying is that we've got 5 categories here that we're going to go through and output if need be. So we're going to come out of here. We're going to say check status. We'll be able to add our API, our LLM brain in here. So we'll come down and do OpenAI. We'll do ChatGPT 4.0 mini to keep the cost down nice and low. If you've not done this before, you need to come across to Playground of OpenAI, dashboard, API keys, create a new key, and you'll be able to use it straight away. So if we come back across, we're now going to test step. So what this should do is output for us where we've got customer service email, or it should be sales email. So we're going to be able to go through and do that. And this is where we need to actually come out of here. We're going to come down and do save. We're going to come in here. We'll do switch. There we go. Now what we're going to be able to do is come through and pull some information. So we'll just do test step. So as we can see here, we've now got the ability to pull this across. And we'll say, if this is customer service, we're going to do one route. We'll rename the output and we'll just go through and add the rest in quickly. So there we go. We've added them all in. So we've now got spam, urgent, customer service, sales, or general response. So again, that's how we can go through and use it. And now what we'll be able to do is come through and we can see, for example, it's customer service for that specific output. What we want to do now is if we've got spam here, for example, again, as we showed earlier, we'll do Gmail. We'll come down to add label to message. We'll be able to come across and we'll put our message ID in there. And we could do spam. But again, we're not going to run through this quickly. We're going to go through and do the rest of the email response, which is what a lot of you will be interested in. So what we'll do next is we're going to come through and do Gmail and we'll do get a message. And the reason we're going to do this is because we want to get more of the information. So we'll just connect all of these up apart from the spam, because again, If we were doing spam, we would automatically categorize it. We'll pull our message ID across. We'll be able to do test step. And now, as you can see here, we've got this information coming through. The key part though, is we need to come down here, turn off simplify, because now if we come across, you'll see that we've got a lot more information that's coming through. And the key part there is we've now got dear team, the entire text of the email, which is what we want to go through and do some validation. So we can say get message details. Now what we'll be able to do is come across and do set. And the reason we're going to do this is just because perhaps there's lots of different information. We want to be able to capture all of the different responses from that thread. So we'll be able to pull it across. So where we've got text, we'll be able to do text. And now we'll be able to do test steps. So as you can see here, we'll save this one. What we're going to do is come back into here. We're going to change this to thread. We're going to do get thread ID. So as we can see here, get thread ID. So now we've got all of these different messages coming back, which is key. If we're going to be responding to a long email chain, we'll have more context. So now we can come back in here and we can use snippet. So now this is going to go through and it's going to capture all of the different snippets that are in this email chain. But if we do it like this, as you can see here, we've got the 0. That means it will only capture that first one. So I want you to use this code here, and then what it enables us to do is append or actually add all of the different snippets into one row so that we'll be able to go through and use that in the one. So we'll say get snippets, and then we'll be able to do save. So now I'll come across, we'll do basic LLM chain again. And then what we're going to do is change this to define below. We're going to add all of the different snippets in here, and then we're going to come down to add a prompt. We'll do system, we'll paste our prompt in there. I'll just open this up so you can see. And then where we've got all the snippets, again, we're just going to pull this across and where we've got all snippets. So now if we come out of here, we do test step. Oh, it won't work, so we need to come across. We'll add in our OpenAI module just to give it the ability to actually leverage it. So we'll come back into here and now we'll do test step. And what it should see is that it's to do within sales. And there we go, is sales. So what it will be able to do is if you've got lots of conversations in the past, we're now going to go through and check it the first time. Maybe it says it's customer service. But actually, because we've got the email thread, we've checked all of those previous messages. We've given it a bit more context. We've then used this revalidation checker to see if it is that category. So we can say validate email category, and then it will be able to go through and use it correctly. So we'll do save. We're going to come across and we're going to duplicate this one that we had earlier. And now we'll be able to go through and connect this up again. And then all we need to do is, as you can see here, we've got JSON text. It's going to be able to use this one from the last module, which is exactly the same, to be able to go through and just route that email to the correct parts. Now, if we do test step, we'll see that we've got it coming through as sales instead of coming through as that customer response that we had a bit earlier. So now we've got lots of different ways that we can use this. Actually, we need to come back in here. We'll just get rid of spam and we'll do test step because actually we've only got these 4 responses that we're really concerned about and we're going to use. Just for some formatting, I'm going to come up into here and then I'm going to pull this general response up to the top, because we're going to be using the general response and the urgent together so that we can go through and send that response back to a person. We're going to pull across. We'll do basic LLM chain again. We're going to come through and just give it a test step. Actually, we need to change this. We'll come into here and do JSON. Actually, we'll come out of here. We'll come back into email. We'll just change this to urgent, because then we'll be able to hard code this because we pin the data. If we retest this, it will come up through the top here. So now we can use it in here and just build out this specific workflow. So we'll be able to pull it across. So what we'll be able to say is get snippets. We're going to add our prompt in here. Again, we'll have a system one first of all. Change this to expression, open this up and pop it in here. We'll get rid of this at the bottom. And again, we'll put across all of the conversations because as you can see on the right hand side, we'll be able to go through and get all of the information from some of those previous emails, just so we've got a bit more context. But again, if you've only got one email, you could go through and maybe get all of the text for that specific one if you wanted to instead. We'll come down and do our OpenAI model again, just keeping that cost nice and low with that ChatGPT 4.0. Let me know if you've been playing around with the nano version that they've got. Really interested to see how you're finding that. We'll be able to rename this to draft response. So now what we're going to be able to do is if we do test it, as you can see here with the prompt that we've given it, we're basically going to go through and try and produce an output that we'll be able to provide back to that user. So as you can see on the right hand side here, we've now got this output so that we can go through and use this with a customer. If I change it to JSON, as you can see here, we've got all of this information. We're going to say services and any relevant case study that highlight their effectiveness. So again, this isn't the perfect email just because of the one that we've sent through here. But one thing I forgot to do is if we come out here, we'll do Gmail, email tool. We'll be able to do get a message. Again, we're just going to put across this one from earlier, because what we want to be able to do is respond to that specific message that we've just got through. If that doesn't work, we're going to come down a bit earlier, just pull this one across instead. So now we'll be able to use this instead, and we'll have the text here. So now what we'll be able to do is come back into our LLM here. We'll be able to open this up. We'll be able to say conversational thread, and then we'll be able to come down here and say last message. We'll be able to pull it across. So where we've got the text, as we can see here, text, we'll be able to pass this in. And as they can see, we've now got the information from that specific email. So if we do test temp, we should get a much better output for what we're going to be using. So as we can see here, yep, all good to go. So now what we'll be able to do is if. So now we're going to say if it's urgent. So we're going to come back to the left-hand side here. We'll just collapse Gmail for ease. We'll say in here is equal to urgent. We're going to go one way. If it is not, we're going to go the other way. So as you can see here, it's true, because in our output that we hard-coded here, we said that it was an urgent email that came through. Now, if we do save, what we're going to look to do is have two different ways of using it for an urgent response or a normal response. The only difference is going to be the information that we share across. So we're going to come up to here. We're going to do Slack. We'll do Slack. We're going to come down to where we've got send message and wait for response. This is because we're going to be notifying maybe a channel or a user. So again, as you can see here, we can give it access to a channel. We're going to be able to go through and, for example, use our email agent. And to do this, what we need to do is authenticate and add our actual agent in here. So we're going to come across to Slack APIs. We'll do your apps. We'll do create a new app. We're going to start from scratch. We'll do YT email demo. We'll add it to our account in here. We'll do create an app. Now we've got the ability to come down here to OAuth and permissions. We're going to go and add a load of them in here. So I'll just do that quickly. There we go. So I just added a few in, and now we'll do install to Agera management, just so we can go through and use it. What we'll get is this little authentication token here, so we can copy this across. We'll be able to come back into our environment. If you've not done this before, come down and do create a new credential, paste in there and do save, and it will go green, and we'll be able to do YT demo. We'll be able to do save. And now we've got the ability to come through, and as you can see here, or it looks like we need to go through and give it the access to the different channels. And that's because we haven't added it into that specific one. I forgot to add this one in here. And then I also forgot to add in channels and then read. So we'll come back up and reinstall this again. So reinstall. Now what we should be able to do is go through and actually use it on our environment. So if we come back into our access, we should be able to choose, there we go, all of the different ones that we've got access to. For example, in this case, we could call it our email agent. We'll be able to put across the message. So again, this is going to be from our draft response, our LLM a bit earlier on. We're going to be able to say, if we come a bit further on, we're going to put this down, and then we're going to change this. So we're going to have urgent response, because again, this has come through the urgent work channel. We've got the draft response at the bottom here. We're going to get rid of this. We'll collapse down a couple here. We'll just see if we'll be able to use the one right at the start. There we go. So now what we're looking for is this original one, and we're going to say the training subject. So there we go. We're going to be able to say who it's from. So again, we'll get rid of this and we'll say who it's from. We'll pull that across and put it in there. So now we've got the ability, if I just pop this out, we'll be able to see, for example, it's an urgent request that's come from Alex. It's all around training help. And then this is the proposed draft that's going to go back to that specific person. So we'll be able to do test. So now what it will do is if we come back into here, we want to change this to have approval. So we're going to come down and add two options. We're going to do approve and disapprove. If we're going to have the primary bottom, we're going to do send. So this is going to send it straight away. Or if we come down the bottom, we're going to do draft. And this will give us the two options of either having something come through as a draft message or going through and actually sending it off straight away. So now if I do test step, what this will do is it will wait for the input. So if we come across to Slack, as you can see here, I've just added them into the channel. And again, to do that, all you need to do is at and then YT demo, and then you'll be able to go through and add it in there. Like you can see, we've been added in a bit earlier. This is an example of the message that we're going to get back. So now, for example, if I do send, we'll say, got it, thanks. So again, this is the human in the loop, that step to get the approval process, and we'll get the approved equals true. So now we can do if, we can say approved. and then we need to change this to is true. We'll be able to do test step. We can say true or false. So now we know if urgent. So now we can actually go through and have the two different ways. So also we can say if approved. Now we'll be able to go through and either send it off straight away or send it as a draft. So what we'll be able to do is come onto the top here, we'll do Gmail. We're going to come across and do send a message. We're going to come across, so we're going to be replying. So we'll come down and choose reply. We need the message ID. So again, I always prefer to come back to the original message that came through, just so that we can use that where possible. So again, we'll put across that message ID. We're going to change this to be text, but again, if you change the prompt, for example, in this draft response to be HTML, it can have some really nice formatting. We'll touch on that a bit later. In the sales agent, we're going to put across, if we open up our draft response in here. So now we'll be able to send that off straight away. And again, you could have many thanks, Alex Followell. There you go. And now you'll be able to send the message back straight away. So if I do test step, what we should see is, oh, it looks like it wasn't working straight away. And that's because I was using the wrong message ID. So we'll come back down to the start and do the original message ID. So we'll do test step. Now it should go through and works. So now if I come back into our emails, what we should see is if I refresh this, actually we've got a response that's gone straight back. So there we go. As you can see there, a really nice, quick, concise email that's gone back that we've approved as well. But if you're not happy with it to go approved, this is where we're going to have this false one here. But actually, maybe we want Slack. We'll be able to go through and do send a message. Again, this would just go send a message into the channel. Again, you could do this as an IM, so it's private between you if you wanted to. And then all you could say is email has been sent. Again, this would just be really good so we can send it back and just notify that person that actually it's been completed. So as you can see here, this email has been sent. So again, just a bit of a nice management around your inbox in there as well. There we go. So we can do send urgent email and notify email the user sent. But for example, if we're not happy with it, so we've said that we want it to be, decline draft, we're going to come through and do draft. We're going to say create a draft. Now what we're going to go through and do is I'm just going to change this output. So actually we're going to be looking at using it. For example, in here, edit, we'll do false pin, we'll do retest of steps. So now I'll come down the bottom. We'll be able to see here that we're going to create a draft. And again, this is going to be on a thread ID. So what we need to do is again, collapse all of this down where possible, because we're going to go back to the one that we originally generated. So now if we come down right to the start, as we can see here, we can put across the thread ID. The message we're going to get a bit from earlier on, the subject, again, we'll have exactly the same subject as what came through. There we go. The text will come up to our draft response here, pull that across into message. And now we can go through and add in anything that you wanted to as well. So again, if you wanted to send replies to, you could send from a different email address if you wanted to. This is going to go through and generate the draft for us. So now we'll be able to go through and generate the draft. We'll be able to come into here. We'll be able to do Slack, add that in there. We'll do send a message. We'll be able to come down to where we've got channel. Again, this is just going in our email channel. And we'll be able to say in here, for example, this is where you're going to be able to find it. So now if I do test step, what we should do is get this email across in our Slack. So if I just come back across, yep, there we go here. So now if I wanted to click on that, it'll take us straight through to the message and we'll be able to see the draft response here. So we could go through and make any changes that we want. Again, that's just a really quick demo just to go through and show how you can actually have the automatic response done through that. Again, this is an urgent one. Maybe if we wanted to do exactly the same, we could do that for our non-urgent responses. So they would come through there. Again, all we would do is come into here. We would say normal response. We'll be able to add in maybe a green icon there instead. So again, we're highlighting that it's not as critical coming through. We'll be able to do save. So if I just come back into here, if we come back into where we've got here, we'll be able to pull up the general response. And now what we'll be able to do is come back through and do save. We'll come down to here. We'll change this output actually in here, isn't it? We'll come through and say that this is a general response. We'll be able to do save, come out of there. We'll now retest the step again. So as you can see here is now green for the general step. We'll do it in here. We're now going to come through draft a response back. We'll do test steps. Now it's going to come down the bottom because we said is urgent, is false. Now we're going to go through and again, we can send that message back. So if we wanted to unpin this data, what we'll be able to do is test step. we'll be able to come across to our Slack channel. As you can see here, we've now got the normal message. Again, this is the proposed draft going back, and again, exactly the same for send and draft. It will go through and complete the exact same process. So that's how we've got it all set up to now be able to respond to our emails in this way here. So there we go. I've just formatted it a little bit better. And again, we would have our urgent one at the top here. But now we've got the two other options down here. So we're going to come down and do the customer service one next. Again, what we're looking to do here is categorize the issuer first. And we're not going to show you the Pinecone vector database because we've covered that on lots of other videos. But again, this will enable us to capture any of the information we want. So again, we're going to come back down here. We're going to do basic LLM chain. We're going to come through and do define below. We're going to add our prompt in here as well. So to do that, we change to expression, open it up, and then we'll paste our prompt in here. Again, we'll put all of the snippets in here just in case we've got lots of different conversation threads with that customer. But what we can also do is add in the specific one for that specific message if we need to as well. Let's close that down a bit though. So again, we've got all the snippets, the customer support. We're going to need to go through and maybe just change this. So actually, let's go through and give ourselves a new email to use. So for example, we could just send this across. So, need help logging in, not sure what to do. We can come back across to our agent. We'll be able to unpin this data. We'll be able to do test workflow. It should come through, or we'll just add our basic LLM brain in there so it can go through and not have an issue. We'll do test workflow. It should come through. We'll do hold in there just so we don't have any issues. We'll do test workflow. So we can see it's now going through. It's now recognized that it's a customer support email. So again, we'll just come back and pin this data in here just so we can use it in the future as we go through and test it out. So now we've got the ability here. We've got a normal customer because the prompt that we gave it was to identify if it was a high-risk customer. They're really angry, aggravated. That's tend to where you want to get the humans involved. Versus something that's a little bit lower complexity or, they're not as angry, standard response, we can go back with this sort of information in here. So now we've got the ability to categorize the request or categorize the customer. Now we'll be able to pull this across. And we're going to come in here and we'll do an if statement because what we want to do is identify if high risk customer. We'll be able to do if, because if it's true, we're going to go one way. If it's false, we're going to go through and provide that automatic response. If it's true, perhaps we want to get the team to respond. We'll do Slack, We'll be able to send a message. Again, send a message. What we'll be able to do is just provide the information. So we'll just actually switch this round. So string not equal to test step. And we'll be able to come back into here. And what we're going to say just in here, channel, email agent. So again, maybe you've got a customer support channel you're using. We'll come through and just add our message text in here. As you can see, we've now got an angry customer or aggravated customer. What we want to do is go through and get rid of this. We're going to come down to the start. We'll put across where we've got the subject. So there we go, subject down the bottom. And we'll be able to do the email ID. So again, we'll get rid of this. We'll come through to the left-hand side, pull that across. And now we've got the ability. So if we do test step, we'll be able to come into our chat with the email agent and again, click on this and we'll be able to see that thread for the customer so that we could go through and provide that response back if we needed to. Again, really good for that customer use case. Maybe if you've got centralized inboxes so that you can go through and respond instead. If it's not a high-risk customer, maybe we're more comfortable with the AI sending a response back. So what we're going to do is say OpenAI. We're going to come down to where we've got message a model. Again, we're going to choose our mini in here. Again, we're going to use that because it's a much cheaper version than some of the other ones out there. We've got 4.1 mini that we can use. Again, that latest and greatest. We're going to add our prompts in here. We'll pop this out. We're going to paste in here. So again, we just need to go through and update it. We're basically giving it a really clear task that it needs to go through and identify if it has the relevant information. If not, we're going to send it off to a human to make sure that they respond. So what we're going to say in here is we're going to use the customer name. So we're going to get rid of this. Again, we'll come right down to the start. We're going to say who it's from, because again, that will be the customer's name plus their email address. We're also going to use all of the snippets. So again, maybe there's been a previous conversation with that customer. We'll have all of the information about that. So again, we'll be able to say in there the different snippets. So now if we come out of here, what we'll be able to do is change this to assistant. We'll come down to add message. We'll be able to say request from the user. We'll be able to go through and use this. What we're going to do is change this back to is equal to, because again, now we're going to go through as a lower complexity one. So now the request from the user, we're going to come across, we're going to say the text or the snippets. So again, we've got that information. We'll be able to backspace in there. And now we'll be able to do test step. And this will be able to provide a response back to us for requires human just because of the way that we've prompted it. But if it needs some more information, again, maybe we've got some internal guidance on how to develop it. What we'll be able to do is add in our vector database. So I've already got an example that we'll be able to copy across here. Again, we've covered it quite a lot in some other videos, so I haven't done it here. But again, let me know if you want me to show how to do it. What we'll be able to do is maybe use a form on submission and then Pinecone vector database just to go through and use it. We'll come through and do question. So again, this is going to be our question and store. We'll give it description. So we'll come down and do customer service knowledge base again to provide all the responses. We'll come down and add our OpenAI module in there. Vector data store, again, we're using Pinecone. So we'll come in there and then we'll use our customer service information that we've already generated. We'll just add the embeddings in here as well. So we need the embeddings from OpenAI, again, just to match the one that we generated a bit earlier as well. And again, we've used the small version on this just to keep it quite efficient. So now if I do test it, what we'll be able to see is that it should come back and actually generate a response for us that it can use to the customer because we've guided it on how to respond. And we've also said that if it's going to respond, it needs to be in HTML format because we're going to give it directly back to that customer. So now we'll be able to do if. We'll do an if statement. We'll be able to say if the content of our OpenAI equals requires human, we're going to say true. It needs to go through up to the top. That's going to need a human to respond. So again, that would be our Slack message. We'll be able to do send a message in there. There we go. And now if we come through, we'll be able to do channel, email, or agent, and then we'll be able to provide a response in there. So we'll paste in there, we'll do expression, pop this out, and we'll just change it again. What this should be is if we get rid of this, we would have the email subject. So again, we'll come down to the start, which would be subject, and we would have the ID. So again, that agent that's dealing with this case would then be able to go through and click on it. Nice and easy. We'll get rid of that. We'll paste in there, and now we'll be able to go through and use that if we were a human. If not, I'm going to come down the bottom, we'll do Gmail, email, we'll do send a message, and now we'll be able to say that it's HTML. We're going to be replying, again, not sending, we're replying. We're not going to need any of this information. We're going to put across our content in here. So again, this is now in HTML format. And if we come right back to the start, we'll be able to get that email or that message ID so that we can provide that response. Now, if I do test step, what we should see is we get it all executed properly. And if we come into here, we reload the page, we should see that because I use that HTML format, it looks really good. And as you can see there, nice and easy example just to show how you can automatically respond to maybe those lower complexity tickets or queries that come into your business there as well. Now we'll be able to condense these down. We'll be able to pose that across. And now that's the second one done. So now all we've got left is our sales one. So we'll be able to do basic LLM chain. The reason I'm using the basic LLM chains actually is because if we come back out of here, we've got the option of all of these different LLMs. We can go through and choose. So for example, maybe you really like the one that's from Claude around the Anthropic chat model for actually providing those customer service responses, or you're getting a lot coming through and you just want something nice and cheap like OpenAI, gives you lots and lots of more flexibility to be able to use that. We'll come out of them. So we'll come back in here. We'll come down and do OpenAI. Again, we'll just pull that across. I'm just going to add the background in here so we can format this a little bit better so that we can go through and use exactly how we want for the sales one. There we go. So now if we come back into here, we'll be able to open it up. We're going to do expression, pop this out. We're going to paste our prompt in there. So again, this is basically saying that if it's a request coming in, we're going to identify if it's a cold lead, warm lead, or hot lead. Again, the reason that we're saying this is because if it's cold, we're going to introduce them to all of the different products or offerings that maybe we have. Got some examples in there. If it's a warm lead, again, we're going to expand on maybe the questions they've had around, AI automation strategies so that they get a more tailored response that comes back. We're also, as you can see here, providing a HTML response back so that we can go through and use it. And we just need to go down and update it in here where we're saying what that customer's email is. So again, we'll come down and pull that across and we'll be able to come down here. And again, all of the email snippets will come back up to the top where we've got our text, get snippets, and then we'll be able to go through and do test step. But again, we need to have a sales information coming through. So what we're going to need to do is come across to our emails. As you can see, and I've got an example in the bottom here, we'll send this off. We'll come back across. Now we're going to need to unpin this and we're going to retest the data. So we'll be able to come in here test work event. Again, we should go. Interested in the services, we'll pin this in here. Now, if I go through and do test workflow, as you can see here, it comes through, identifies it's a sales email, comes down the bottom and automatically generates a response for us based on what we've got there. So now what we're going to do is send, we want to do Gmail. We're going to do send a message. There we go. We'll be able to put it across. So again, we've got that HTML text. We're going to be replying again to that email that came through. We'll come back down to the start. We're going to put across our message ID. You can add in any options you want here. So again, maybe you've got some attachments, standard documentation that you do. You'll be able to add that in there as well. Then what we're going to come through and do is our basic LLM chain again. And then we're going to come through and just define below. We're going to paste our text in there. And then we're going to come through and add a prompt. So again, we're just going to paste in there. What we're basically saying for this one is that we're going through and actually providing that response back to the customer. Now we're going to notify the team in Slack so that they can follow up perhaps if they need to as well. So what we're going to say in here is we're going to put across again where we've got that AI agent and we're going to get rid of this. So again, this is going to be the snippet. So it gives a bit more context to the team. Again, it's that snippet. So it's the more condensed version. If you want to go through and just use that entire email chain, you'll be able to use that as well. Let's go through and just add in our AI brain in there so that we can use it. We'll do test step. Now what we should be able to do is get a really concise summary that comes out the back of it. As you can see here, of all that information, then we're going to share back with the team. So again, we'll come back through, we'll do Slack, send a message. There we go, send a message. Now we'll be able to put across this text. And again, maybe you've got a different channel here, which would be around leads. So again, we could say email leads. We'll be able to send that off. Again, not in channel. So what we need to do is just come across. Come to where we've got email leads. We'll be able to at YT demo. We'll be able to do that. Send. And now we'll get a request to add them in there. So we'll just wait for this to come back. There we go. We can add them in there. And now we should add them into that specific channel. So now if we come back across to our environment, we'll be able to do test step again. And it should be able to go through and output that response. Now if we come back across, as you can see here, new opportunity identified. Again, we've got the sender not mentioned, but in this case, it can go through and provide all that information as we needed to make it really easy to automatically manage all of your inbox. That's been a really quick demo just on how to actually set it up. Again, we've got lots and lots of resources in the community if you're interested to learn this one or more around AI agents, voice AI business systems, so that you can go through and optimize your business or maybe just play around with it and learn the latest and greatest. And again, don't forget, if you join the community, you'll also get access to the simplified version as well. That's all for today. Stay tuned for more around AI agents, automation, and have a great day.